All right. Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining us for this live stream. Most of you probably know us. Many of you are our clients already. But in case it's your first encounter with us, my name is Jan.
My name is Daria, and we're the owners of Move to Prague relocation experts, and your first friend in Prague.
Yes. And you've probably seen the previous videos we've done, and this one will be slightly different. First of all, like 3 important things probably. First of all, there will be no publicly accessible recording of this session. So make sure you stay with us, and if you have any questions, please ask them, because you might not be able to see this video anytime soon. Second, if you stay till the end with us, we'll have some bonus for you at the end of the session. So stay tuned, and it will be a pretty nice gift from us to you, I guess. And the other thing which will be different is that we'll go through like official points first, like through, it's not a presentation, but through what we want to tell you. And then there will be like an official question time at the end of the live stream. So we'll not be jumping from one topic to another. Of course, if you ask questions, please do that. Contact us through our chat, or like here and ask questions, or Instagram. That's why I'm also looking there, because there is our Instagram feed. So if you have any questions, please ask, and if they are related to the topic we're like discussing, we'll ask the questions and answer them right away. The rest of the questions will be answered at the end of the session.
Great.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for joining, and let's jump right into this. It's a new year, and many people usually do some resolutions at the new year, so like we'll move to a new country, we'll get a visa, we'll change flats, or we'll quit smoking. So many people also decide to move to the Czech Republic in the beginning of each year. So this video is about, like, it's meant to give you information about what kind of visas are available for the Czech Republic, and what's the difference between them, and what you need to do if you want to apply for one. So we'll be covering all the different types of visas and residence permits. First, we'll go through like 2 different types one will be based on duration or validity of the visa, and the other part will be based on the purpose of your stay. And we'll first just touch the topic like generally, briefly, and then we'll go into each of those in details. We'll mainly focus on the purposes of stay, because that's the most important. You need to know why you're moving here, and based on the purpose of your stay, there are different requirements, different type of visas, and the system works differently. All right, so let's jump into that. First, visa types based on duration. First type, short-term visas. Short-term visas are meant for people who are coming to the Czech Republic just to visit. It's not meant for expats or moving here, it's just for visits. Short-term visa generally means stays up to 90 days, so for some people it means that you need to get a short-term visa, like a Schengen visa, through a Czech embassy. For some nationalities, it means that you just can use your 90 days visa-free stay. So to give an example, for example, if you're an Indian and you want to visit the Czech Republic for a week or 3 months or just 2 days, you need to go to the Czech embassy in New Delhi and apply for a short-term visa. If you're, for example, American and you want to visit the Czech Republic for just a couple days, couple weeks, you don't need to apply for any visa, and you will just come here and you will be using your visa-free stay. What we mainly deal with though is long-term type of residencies or visas. So there are 2 different types of long-term stays, let's say. Long-term stay means that you want to stay longer than 90 days. So first thing you can apply for if you're willing to stay longer than 90 days is a long-term visa. Another type is long-term residence permit. Which one you apply for depends on the purpose of your stay, so we'll cover it a bit later. In general, long-term visas or long-term residence permits are meant for stays longer than 90 days, longer than the short-term visa, and up to 2 years. Most of them are renewable, so if you get the residence permit, for example, for 2 years and it's coming to its end, you can extend it for another 2 years. Yeah, you can keep doing this forever, basically. If you don't want to do it forever, though, and you want to stay indefinitely in the Czech Republic and you don't want to renew the visas every 2 years, then if you have been here for at least 5 years in a row, meaning that you didn't have a visa for 1 year, then you left for 1 year, and then you came back with a new visa. If you have been here continuously for 5 years, you can apply for a permanent residence permit, and that basically means that you can stay forever. It's very difficult for the government to cancel the permanent residency, and unless you do something like really serious, then you will be allowed to stay basically forever. Usually the permanent residency is also valid for 5 years, or the card is valid for 5 or 10 years, so you don't need to renew it that often, and gives you more rights and more like stability, let's say. And then if you like living here a lot and you like the Czech people and everything, you can also apply for Czech citizenship. That usually comes after 5 years of having the permanent residency. So in general, 10 years of living in the Czech Republic to get a Czech citizenship. All right. Do we have any questions related to this?
Yeah, we have a question about the possibility of the work visa from Mohammed from Pakistan. And then we have a question from Lorena, I'm a food chemist and with experience. Are there possibilities in Prague for this education? What would I have to do to get a work position there?
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll cover both the things in the next slides. So let's go to it.
Please keep sending your questions to us and we'll be answering them soon enough.
All right, so let's say you decided to move to the Czech Republic for long term, not as a tourist for 90 days, but to physically actually move here and live here for some time. Then you will be applying for either a long-term visa or a long-term residence permit. Either of those must always have some official purpose of stay. So you cannot just move here saying, hey, I like the Czech Republic and I want to live here. You always need to have some official purpose of stay. Maybe one more note, all we're talking about now is meant for people from outside of the EU. Maybe you should have said this in the beginning, but if you're an EU citizen, you don't need a visa to live in the Czech Republic. So we've covered this topic in one of our previous videos. So if you're from non-EU countries and you want to move to the Czech Republic, this is what we're covering now. So if you want to move here, you always need to have some official purpose of stay. The official purposes are given by the Ministry of the Interior of the Czech Republic, which is the official authority responsible for all the long-term visas and all the long-term residence permits. And these are the main purposes of stay which you can apply for. So, studies, that means if you want to study in some high school or university. Employment, that's if you want to be employed in the Czech Republic and work in the Czech Republic for some Czech company, mainly. Business, that applies to either freelancers, people who want to just freelance, run their own business in the Czech Republic, or also for let's say bigger corporations, if you want to establish a limited liability company and start running like a huge business in the Czech Republic, hire plenty of employees, and you're the director of the company, then you can also apply for the business type of visa. Then if some of your family members, your wife, your husband, your kids are already living in the Czech Republic, you can apply for a family reunification to be able to stay with them in the Czech Republic. Then culture, that's a very specific type of visa. We'll cover it later, but basically that's meant for people who are artists and some official institution, like cultural institution in the Czech Republic, wants them in the Czech Republic to perform for them. So we've recently had an opera singer who was going to work or like sing for a couple Czech theaters. So in that case, you can apply for a culture visa. And other purpose of stay is basically meant for those people who don't fall under any of those categories but still want to move into the Czech Republic. It can get a bit tricky because you then need to convince the Ministry of the Interior that your purpose of stay is good enough for them to give you the visa, but we'll talk about it a bit later. All right.
Meanwhile, we have a question about the permanent residency. If you wanna answer it now or later.
Yeah, let's do it later.
Okay.
Alright, so let's now jump into the first purpose of stay, and that's studies. Studies, obviously, that's meant for people who are willing to study in the Czech Republic. It can be either high school or university, but to qualify for the official purpose of studies, the program you will be studying needs to be like accredited. It needs to have accreditation of the Czech Ministry of Education. If you choose some university or some program which is not accredited, you will not fall under the purpose of studies. Honestly speaking, the ministry made some changes recently, and it's a bit more, the definition of studies got a bit more complicated because some courses which used to be considered studies are no longer considered studies, and some of those which were not considered studies are now considered studies, so it's a bit of a mess. But in general, if your course is accredited, then you can apply for the student purpose. Why to do that? What are the advantages of the long-term visa or long-term residence permit with the purpose of studies? Those are the main easy process. That's the first thing, because for students, it's kind of easy, and it's kind of related to the second advantage as well, that the processes are, there are many advantages for students, let's say. For example, now we're shooting this video still during all the COVID restrictions and travel restrictions and everything. So most of the Czech embassies in the world are now closed and they don't accept any visa applications. But most of them accept student visa applications. So students have many exceptions like that, in some countries you can also, you don't have to submit the application in person, you can just mail it to the embassy and they will process it anyway. So for students, many parts of the process are easier than for any other type of visa or residence permit. One great advantage of the student visa is also that you are allowed to work, get employed in the Czech Republic. As long as you keep your studies, then you can as well work. And that's, I think that's one of the greatest advantages, because you need to support yourself if you're in the Czech Republic studying. And this is a way to do that. You can get employed if you're studying. Disadvantage, you need to actually study. That sounds kind of strange, but the point is that what can happen is that you start your studies, you are able to get employed, so you get employed, and then you realize that you prefer working instead of the school, and you kind of stop studying the school or stop going there or passing the exam. But that's a bit tricky or risky, because if you don't study, universities especially, they need to report it to the Ministry of the Interior. So if you don't go to classes, if you don't pass your exams, if you don't go to school, the ministry will find out and they can cancel your visa or your residence permit. So if you are thinking about applying for the student visa just because it's easier to get the visa, it's not probably a good idea, because you really need to keep studying. Unless the ministry will find out and they will cancel your visa and you'll need to apply for something again. All right. Any questions regarding student visas, maybe? If you're right there.
Doesn't seem so. No student visa questions.
No students watching? All right, so let's get to the second most popular, or maybe even the most popular one, and there was a question about that as well, I believe.
Yeah.
So the second official purpose of stay the ministry allows is employment. That means that you found a Czech employer who is willing to employ you, and you want to move here based on this purpose of stay. There are plenty of advantages for this type of visa or residence permit. Some disadvantages, so let's go through that now. Great advantage of getting the employment type of visa, which is called employee card, is that you have high chances of approval. Because there is, as long as your employer is a good employer, meaning that they don't have any debts in the governmental fees like social security, healthcare, that they pay everything for their employees, that they don't have any problems with the government. So as long as they're a good employer, you have really high chances of getting the residence permit approved. Because there is some Czech entity, there is a Czech company saying, we want you in the Czech Republic. So the government, for the government, it's like a good thing. So if you find a good employer, there is a high chance of getting the employee card approved. Of course, the first part, finding an employer in the Czech Republic, that's a different thing, because this whole process of getting a visa or residence permit based on employment can take a very long time. We'll probably not go into details much now, but just to give you an idea, if you want to get the employee card, a long-term residence based on employment, your employer first needs to advertise the position you will be hired for with the labor office for 30 days to get a special number, vacancy number. Then only once you have the number, you can go to the Czech embassy and submit all the documents and apply for the employee card. Plus then the approval time is officially 60 to 90 days. Plus then once your employee card is approved, you need to come to the Czech Republic, go to the Ministry of the Interior, give your fingerprints taken, or get your fingerprints taken, and photos taken, digital signature, everything. And then another 2-3 weeks later, you will pick up the actual residence card. So this whole process of getting the employment type of residence permit can take anything between 3 to 6 months, sometimes even longer. And that's, for many companies, it's a big barrier, because if they like you, if they want to employ you and they need to wait for you for half a year, it's not that much attractive. So for many employers, this is difficult. They first maybe don't understand the process, they don't know exactly what to do. Second, if they know what to do, they know that it will take a long time. So it's not really attractive for many employers. But if you find employment, it's really good type of residence permit for you to apply for. Because first, if you have a good employer, the chance of getting the visa approved is really high. Second, you directly get the residence permit, so for 2 years, so you don't have to renew it every year, and it's, even if you need to renew it after 2 years, it's very simple. It's one of the easiest renewals, so that's another great advantage. And of course, another great advantage is that all the social security, healthcare, income tax, everything that's paid for by your employer. So it's automatically, you get a salary and all these have been already deducted from it, so you don't have to do anything about your taxes on your own. There are some other types of visas, for example, the business visa, which we'll get to next, where you need to take care of everything on your own. Here, everything is done by your employer, so it's super easy for you. Disadvantage, you're tied to one employer, because the employee card is meant for one position with one employer. So if you want to change your employer, there are some limitations to that. For example, you cannot change your employer earlier than after 6 months of working for the first one. And even if you're past the 6 months and you want to change the employer, there is some process to follow. So you'll need to collect some documents, send them to the Ministry of the Interior, wait 30 days for them to get back to you if you submitted everything correctly and if you can change the employer or not. So this is kind of like a small limitation to the employee card, that you're tied to one employer. Another disadvantage for some nationalities is that for some embassies, or at some embassies, there are quotas for how many people can apply for the employee card a year. In some countries, the quotas are pretty high. In some countries, there are no quotas at all, so there are no limits of how many people can apply. In some countries, for example, India, there is, I believe, 720 people allowed to apply for the employee card a year. So if you imagine like India having 1.5 billion people and only 720 people can apply, there is a huge like tension, and it can get very difficult to get an appointment and even apply for the employee card. So this might be disadvantage for some nationalities. Did we have any question about?
We do actually have a lot of questions about the employee card, which is, well, it's always the case because it's probably the most lucrative and most interesting permit you can get. So what do we have here? From Arun, I have applied for employee card and got a letter from Ministry of Interior saying that my employer have debt of 20,000 crowns, and if my employer pays the debt, they will approve that. Because of lockdown, the work closed.
Well, yeah, that refers to this point. If you find a good employer, it's very difficult to predict. If you already applied and the ministry found out that your employer has some debts, if they approve your application or not. If you say that if it was mentioned in the letter that as long as the employer covers the debt, they will approve it, then it's fine. That can work that way. But sometimes if the debt is like higher, or if they don't cover it, or if they have some other problems as well, so not only debt in the social security, for example, but also debt with taxes and debt somewhere else, then the ministry could deny your application. We've actually seen it a couple times. That's based on the employer, because employers also have some duties. For example, they need to report that a foreigner started working for them on the same day when the foreigner started working. And if they fail to do this, that could also be like a potential problem, because the ministry, when approving your application, they will also be checking if your employer fulfills all the requirements and reports everything.
Yeah, we have an addition to that question that debt is about social security and insurance.
Yeah, so we would need to see the letter you received, but if it says that as long as the employer covers the debt, that they will approve your application, then that's good. Then just talk to your employer and have them covered everything as soon as possible, and you should be fine. If they mention that if they don't pay it, or if I don't know if it was there that the employer was closed, so I don't know if it means that it was like completely shut down, or if they just didn't have any income. So as long as they pay it, and as long as the ministry sees them as a good employer again, then your employee card would be approved. But it's difficult to predict because we haven't seen the letter, and every case is a bit different. But this is exactly what we are talking about here, that if you have an employer which has no problems, then it's safe.
Yeah. Then we have a question. Hello, could you please tell something about economic migration project like qualified employee program? That's a very nice question.
It's a good question. Thank you for it. We're getting a bit deeper into this topic, but obviously that's something that interests you, so let's do that. Those projects, yes, there are special projects for employers to be able to easier bring employees in some specified professions to the Czech Republic. So let's give an example. For example, as we are talking about the quotas, there is a quota for how many people can apply for the employee card through Czech embassies in Ukraine. The total amount of people is, I believe, 40,720. So 40,000 people can apply for the employee card from Ukraine. On the other hand, 40,000 of that, 40,000 out of 40,720 of spots are reserved for employers or applications through one of those programs for employers. So basically, if your employer is registered in one of the programs, you can apply for one of the 40,000 spots for the employee card, and there is a high chance that you will get to the embassy and that everything will work fine. If your employer is not enrolled in one of the programs, you will be fighting with the rest of the country for the 720 available spots outside of those programs. So yeah, this is one of the advantages of the programs. There are three different types. There used to be plenty of those programs with for different countries and with different purposes. Now the ministry united them into three: highly qualified worker, qualified worker, and like management and there is like the highest type. I cannot remember the exact name now. We will definitely be able to share it later. But there are three types, and as long as your employer is registered in one of them, this whole process should be easier for you. But to get registered as an employer, it also takes some time and some paperwork and some money. So not all the employers are registered in the program. So yeah, I don't know why exactly you asked, if you were looking for employers registered in the programs, or if your employer told you that they are registered or they are not. But basically there are special programs for employers to be able to get employees from outside of the European Union easier to the Czech Republic. But then there are different conditions depending on the type of work and the field of business. There are some limitations. There are some criteria the employer must meet, like minimum amount of employees, minimum time on the market, and like that. Okay.
Another question. I'm an IT expert based in Pakistan. I have an MBA degree. What would be probability in my case of work visa?
Well, IT is a pretty big thing in the Czech Republic now. So if you're good, I believe that you have pretty high chances of finding a company in the Czech Republic interested in hiring you and like kind of sponsoring you or helping you with the whole process of getting the employee card. But yeah, you will need to keep looking. If you contact us later, we'll be happy to send you a link to a database of jobs available to employee card holders or seekers. So that's a database of jobs where companies willing to hire people from outside of the EU post their jobs. So if you have a chance to find a job in the field, the highest chance is through this website because it's primarily focused on the companies willing to hire people from outside of the EU. So we'll share that and it could definitely help you. But then again, it depends on what company you find because as we explained before, the whole process it takes a long time. You need to count 3 to 6 months at least. Now, given the situation with COVID and embassies being closed and everything, it might take even longer. So, yeah, you definitely have chances in this field because it's like high or like a big thing in the Czech Republic, and we have plenty of tech companies and even like big companies from abroad moving here and basing now in the Czech Republic. So definitely you have high chances, but the process will be a bit complicated or long term at least.
Yeah. Then, hello, regarding change of employer. I've heard there was some change regarding change of employer. Do we still need to wait for the approval for it, or if we just need to send a document for change in employer and you can join the new work after 30 days of applying? Okay,
those are very specific questions. Thank you for that. We'll then continue with the rest of the purposes of stay. Just briefly to answer this, yeah, there have been some changes with the latest changes of the immigration law, and one of the changes was that you no longer need to, like, the ministry no longer needs to approve the change of employer. So that's on one hand an advantage, because basically they are not approving the application, you just inform them about that. On the other hand, it works the way that you need to send all the required documents to the ministry. They will go through the documents, and if you send all the documents and they were correct, they will let you know that everything was fine and you can change your employer. So you still need to wait for them to let you know. You cannot start working sooner than you hear from the ministry. The disadvantage of this, advantage obviously is that it's faster because there is no approval process, so they just check the documents and sometimes we receive the answer within a week. So it's like very fast. On the other hand, because there is no approval process, if some of the documents you submitted was not correct, you have no chance to correct yourself. Okay, they will send you a letter. You cannot change your employer because you haven't sent all the required documents or they were not correct. So especially if you submit the documents informing them about the change of employer, at the end of the allowed limit, you can stay unemployed. That's 60 days from you left your last job. You have 60 days to find a new employer and report it to the ministry. So if you send the information, let's say on the 50th day, then you wait 30 days to hear from the ministry that you cannot change your employer. Then basically you pass the limit and your employee card will be cancelled and you cannot change the employer. You will need to leave the Czech Republic. So on one hand, it's easier because it's not approval process. You just inform the ministry. But on the other hand, you still need to wait for them to get back to you saying that you informed them properly and that you can change the job. So you need to be careful about that. It's a great advantage if you have all the documents prepared correctly. If you don't, then it can be pretty dangerous.
Good. Then we have a question from Lorena. I'm a food chemist with experience. Are there possibilities in Prague for this education? What I have to do to gain a work position there? Well, that's something we mentioned before.
Yeah, I would say that food chemist is not as good, let's say, profession as IT, because IT is really big in the Czech Republic now. Food chemists, I'm not sure that it's like a huge, there is a huge demand for people in this field. On the other hand, it's a very specific field, and if you're really good at it, you have specific knowledge, you have something to bring to the Czech companies, you definitely have a chance to find a job here. But again, everything we discussed applies in your case as well. So first you will need to find an employer willing to go through this process and then go through the process. So definitely it's possible, but you need to be patient because it will take some time.
Yeah, the same area. If you're a social worker, is there any jobs for me?
Yeah, that's probably the same answer. What is big in the Czech Republic is IT, so there are plenty of opportunities for that. Before COVID, pretty big thing here was also teaching languages. So if you were a native speaker of English, you had a pretty good chance to find a job here in this field as well. The rest, depends. But definitely go to the website which we will share, where companies need to post their jobs if they want to hire people from outside of the EU, and just go through that. Go through the positions listed there because there are a couple 100,000, I believe, positions available. So it will give you a good idea about the market and what kind of positions are companies looking for, and you'll see if there are many opportunities in that field. They will be there, and you can get a pretty good idea through that website.
Yeah, as soon as we have so many questions about the employee card, we also share the link to our blog on our website, which says every employee card, everything you need to know. So try look into it. It's a pinned comment on the chat section. So try to take a look at it. It's not very long read, and I think you can find all the necessary information there.
All right, let's move on and do business now. The business visa is also one of very popular ones. Plenty of our clients come to the Czech Republic using the business visa, and in a way, it's very good type of visa. From a different perspective, it's not that good. So we'll cover that now. So the main advantage of the business visa is that you have flexibility. If you want to work in the Czech Republic or earn money in the Czech Republic, you can either do it through employment, but in that case you are tied to one employer, and there are some rules we discussed before to change the employer. If you come here as a freelancer or a business owner, you have much more flexibility because you can work for different clients, different companies. You can set up your online shop or physical shop or restaurant or whatever. So you have much more flexibility because you're not tied to anyone. On the other hand, the approval process for the business visa is usually more complicated. Of course, it depends on the exact business plan you have, but it's definitely more difficult and harder than, for example, the employee card. I'll explain why. Because the thing is that if you're coming here if you're applying for the business visa, the government will be asking you questions when you're submitting your application at the embassy. The officers there will be asking you questions about your business plan. What do you want to do in the Czech Republic? Why you chose the Czech Republic for your business? How much you will be earning? Who will be your clients? If you already have any website for the business. And that's where it gets complicated. So I'll give you 2 examples so you understand the whole point behind that. First, let's say we work with plenty of language teachers.
Actually, there's just a question about that. If business is the same as gymno.
Okay. Yeah, gymno is a Czech word for trade license. So like short, like abbreviation for the trade license. So gymno means a trade license. But based on the trade license, you can apply for the business visa. So how it works usually is that you get a trade license, which will allow you to run business or freelance in the Czech Republic. And then based on the trade license, you apply for a long-term visa with the purpose of staying business. Hopefully it was clear. And then back to the 2 examples. So if you go to the embassy and you are an English teacher, for example, the process will be kind of simple because you can have both private students, you can have companies, and basically for our clients how we do it is that if you're an English teacher, we recommend our clients to get, say, 2-3 letters from different language schools or different private clients saying, once you get your visa, I'll be happy to take your classes or take classes from you. And that's basically enough to get the business visa, pass the interview, and get the visa. If your business plan is different though, if you, for example, want to open a restaurant, if you go to the embassy and they will ask you about your business plan and you tell them, yeah, I want to open a restaurant, but I haven't done anything yet, the visa will be most likely denied, saying that you have a nice dream, but you haven't done anything like concrete to qualify for the visa. So, for example, if you wanted to open a restaurant and get a business visa based on that, you would need to find a spot for the restaurant, rent it, like furnish it, prepare it. You would need to set up a website for the restaurant. You would need to know what kind of food you will be selling, how much you will be selling it for. You would need to have the website to advertise the restaurant. You would ideally need to have some pre-contracts with some suppliers of the meat and vegetables and everything. So it would be way more work. But then when you go to the embassy, they will ask you about your business. You will be able to say, yeah, I want to open a restaurant, but it's not just a dream. I've already rented the restaurant space. I have pre-contracts with suppliers. I have a website. I have a menu. Everything is ready. I'm just waiting for the visa to be able to go there and start the business. In that case, of course, it's possible and you will be able to get the visa. But if your business plan is kind of complicated, as for example the restaurant, and you go to the embassy and you don't have any documents, any proofs of anything in hand, it would be very difficult to get the visa. Also, we get plenty of inquiries from digital nomads, basically people, which is pretty cool thing now, that you work on your laptop and you can work from all around the world. So you sit in Prague and you can work for your client in the US or somewhere else. So it's very it's great thing about the modern world. Unfortunately, the Czech visa process doesn't really reflect that. Because if you go to the embassy saying that you want to get a business visa and that you already have plenty of clients from the US and from all around the world, the ministry can easily deny the visa saying, okay, that's great, you have clients all around the world, but why you need to be in the Czech Republic to provide the services? And if you say that you don't really need to be here, you just want to live here because you like it here, then that doesn't qualify as a good enough reason for the business visa to be approved. So for digital nomads, this is not really a viable option unless you can find clients in the Czech Republic or someone interested in using your services even in the Czech Republic, or if you can tie the business you already have to the Czech Republic. Because we, for example, had a client who had a successful business in the US and they wanted to expand the business to the Czech Republic. So that makes sense. And the company from the US wrote a letter saying, yeah, we plan on expanding, so we need this person to run business in the Czech Republic. And that could work. If you have like a legit reason to run the business from the Czech Republic, then it's okay. But if you don't have any Czech clients and you don't really need to be in the Czech Republic to run the business, you can do it from all around the world, it would be very difficult for you to get the business visa. So that's one of the difficult parts of the process. More difficult extension, yes, because for example, compared to the employee card where everything is taken care of by your employer, here under the business visa, you're responsible for your own taxes, for paying the social security, paying healthcare, doing your own tax returns and everything. And because of all this, the extension gets also more complicated. Because for example, if you're going if you're extending your stay under the business purpose, you need to prove that first, you've been making enough money on monthly basis, that you're meeting the minimum requirements. Second, that you don't have any debts with the government authority. So you don't have any debts in the social security, debts in the healthcare, debts in taxes, anything like that. And there are more documents needed. So compared to other types of visas, it's more difficult to extend this one. And similar thing as with the employee card, unfortunately, in some countries, at some embassies, there are quotas for how many people can apply for the business visa a year. Again, because we spoke about India previously. So, for example, in India, there are basically just 12 spots available for people to apply for the business visa a year. That means one person a month can apply for a business visa through the Czech embassy in India. So the competition there is like huge, and it can be very difficult to even get an appointment to even apply for the visa. Not even talking about getting the visa approved based on your business story, let's say business plan.
Yeah, you were talking about the embassy, so we have a question from Shelley. Are most Czech embassies in Europe still processing business visas now? Well, I for sure wouldn't say that most Czech embassies in Europe are open. I'm going to share a link into, as a reply to your comment, where it's a website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, when you can find all the embassies and how they operate. So they're divided into two groups. One group is the embassies that are fully open, is the first paragraph of the first table you will see, and the second one are the embassies that work partially, that have partially renewed agenda, and those that have partially renewed agenda don't issue business visas. I think they don't issue employee cards right now, and some kind of other kinds of visas, but it's written there very, very specifically and quite detailed. So if you want to apply in some embassy in Europe, or it's in Europe, it's in the world, you can take a look there. I just share it. It's always the best to look for information in official sources. So this is one of the official sources, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, mzv.cz. So you can follow it there.
All right.
Yeah, the ones that are fully opened, you can apply. You can apply there for the employee card. You can apply there for the business visa.
Cool. Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll take a look. Wait. Don't be that quick.
Okay.
Do you anticipate quotas decreasing for business via post-COVID? For example, allowing less Americans to receive business visa.
Well, I would say that the quotas are more about politics. That has anything to do with COVID or anything like that. It's about politics and how many foreigners in general the Czech Republic wants to let into the Czech Republic, and what are the relationships between the Czech Republic and the concrete country. So I don't think it will depend much on this. Maybe it will depend on the policy of the new president of the United States. Depends on different factors, but I don't think that COVID will have much to do with that. Yeah.
And just the embassies that are currently open, of course, the queues there are longer. So in Berlin, for example, which is the closest to the Czech Republic where you can apply for a business visa, has all appointments booked till March, or even now probably till April. So if you decided to apply somewhere close to the Czech Republic, just make sure you reserve your appointment quite in advance and prepare for it, because there are a lot of people waiting for their appointments because there are so little places to apply at.
Yep.
So just keep it in mind when you do.
Good point. Okay, any other?
We still have a very quick the question about the permanent residency. I don't know if you want to get to it later or.
Yeah, we'll get to the permanent one later, because let's finish. I believe we have only like one family reunification purpose, which we'll cover a bit deeper, and then just the two remaining, and then we'll open the questions. So I'll answer the questions there. Okay, family reunification. This is meant for family members of someone who is already living in the Czech Republic. So let's say a husband or wife came to the Czech Republic under the business visa or an employee card, and then they want to bring the rest of the family to the Czech Republic. So this is exactly what this type of visa or this purpose of stay is meant for. To bring your spouses, to bring your kids to the Czech Republic. An advantage of this is that the process is pretty easy, because Czech Republic is very much focused on family from this perspective. So basically, if one of the family members already has a valid visa or residence permit in the Czech Republic, the chances that the family reunification visa will be approved is basically like 100%. Not, of course, that the Czech Republic can always refuse or deny a visa because there is no legal right to get a visa, but as long as someone from your family is already living here, it's relatively very easy for you to get the family reunification visa and move here as well. So that's the great advantage. Of course, it only applies to like the closest family, so like spouses, so husband, wife, or kids. Other cases, like for example, if you're in a long-term relationship without a marriage, or if you want to bring your mother or father, that's not that easy. Sometimes it's almost impossible, because this is meant for like the immediate family, so spouses and kids. Disadvantages, like probably those are two disadvantages. First, that you will be, because your purpose of stay is basically staying with your partner or your spouse or with your parents, so you're always tied to the main applicant. So if, let's say, a husband has an employee card, then the validity of your residence permit or visa will be based on that employee card. And if, for example, the main applicant decides to move to the Czech Republic, then also this family reunification visa or residence permit will be cancelled. So basically, you're always tied to the main applicant unless you change the purpose of your stay. And also, there is a limited ability to work if you come here, especially under the long-term visa with the purpose of family reunification. Then you might not be allowed to work for up to 15 months. You can, of course, do it in other ways. You can get a trade license and you can freelance, or you can, if you find an employer, you can switch to the employee card. But in general, at least in the beginning of your stay, you might not be allowed to get employed. So that might be the disadvantage.
Now we have a question about the family reunification. Does it apply to partnership visa as well? Is my visa still in process for the partnership? Before 1 month I've applied. What are the chances for rejections? Please let me know.
Yeah, this visa type is meant for couples where both of you are, or like all of you, if it's a family, all of you are non-EU citizens. So let's say 2 Americans move in here, 2 Indians move in here, or like Indian-American couple, or any other type of third country nationals, yes, people from outside of the EU. If the partnership visa refers to a specific type of residence permit where one of you is an EU citizen and the other one is his or her family member. In that case, you don't need to be married. You can be in a long-term relationship, and the partnership visa, the temporary residence permit for family members of EU citizens, can still be approved if you provide enough proofs that you're in a serious relationship and that you live together, that you travel together, you share your costs and everything. I believe we've covered this previously as well, so you can go to one of our previous videos or to our website. We have a pretty detailed article about that, but that's not this case. This case is meant for people where all of you are from non-EU countries. All right, so then the last two types of purposes of stay. Culture, we touched it in the beginning, so that's a very specific type of visa. In general, we've had, I don't know, 8,000. We've worked with about 8,000 clients, and I believe only like a couple of those were like culture or applied for a culture type of visa. It's not that common to apply for, but I believe most of our clients were opera singers. So if you're an opera singer and you get an invitation from some Czech theaters or opera houses to sing for them, then this is the exact type of visa you are applying for. And it's very specific, so I don't think we need to be too detailed about that. If you have questions about that, if you're an artist, you want to come here, of course, get in touch with us. We'll be happy to explain and answer all your questions, but in general, it's not too popular. Different case a bit is with the other purpose of stay. Basically, for the other purpose of stay, you can apply if no other category applies to your case. So if you don't want to be employed in the Czech Republic, if you don't want to study, if you don't want to run business in the Czech Republic, if you don't have anyone from your family living here, so you can try to apply for the other purpose of stay, but then, which is the main disadvantage basically, is the main thing is that you need to convince the ministry that your reason to stay is good enough for the ministry to give you the visa. So from our experience, there used to be one possibility which is not a possibility any longer, and that was for retired people. If you were retired and you had high enough income from the social security, or you just had investments, or you had enough money, then you could apply for the other purpose of stay, and you kind of easily got the visa based on that.
And we actually had a question about that earlier.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's maybe answer it.
That was the question.
Okay, that was the question. Okay, so now so this option is no longer available because the ministry changed their mind like 2 years ago, and they basically started saying that it's great that you love the Czech Republic and you want to spend your retirement here, but you can do it either under the 90 days as a tourist, the visa-free stay, or you can get a shorter visa and you can visit. If you like it here, you can do it this way, and you can come for 3 months at a time as a tourist. So you don't really need to have a long-term visa. So unfortunately, retirement solely is not an option anymore. You can still try, but it would be difficult. Usually, what this kind of visa or purpose of stay is meant for is if you want to study some program or school or university which doesn't fall under the definition of studies, which means that the program is not accredited. For example, if you want to study Czech language, most of the private schools don't have like an official accreditation from the Ministry of Education, so you don't qualify for the student purpose of stay. But in that case, you can apply for the other purpose of stay, and that's actually pretty common. That programs which are not accredited, either private universities or like Czech language classes, that many people apply for the other purpose of stay. To some extent, it can also apply to sportsmen or sportswomen. So if you're a professional athlete, you can also apply for the other or like sports type of visa. But you always need to convince the ministry that the purpose of your stay is good enough for them.
We have two questions from Ramona. First, if we went through the SRO types, so the business visa when you have a limited liability company, and another is for education, does it need to be full-time? For student visa, yes, that it has to be a full-time studies. It cannot be how does it called? The remote studies or distance studies. It has to be a full-time commitment in the university. As for the SRO type, have you mentioned anything about that?
We just touched that, but basically SRO, it's a good knowledge, Ramona. SRO is basically a Czech abbreviation of limited liability company. So if you want to run business in the Czech Republic, you basically have two options. There are more, but let's say two main groups. Either you do it as a freelancer under the trade license, which is probably better for like your personal business, or if the business is meant to be small in the beginning, if you're not like a huge business moving your offices to the Czech Republic. Because as a freelancer under the trade license, your taxation is pretty low. To deal with your taxes, it's pretty kind of easy. So that it's easy to set up the trade license, it's cheap, it doesn't take long, so it's easier for you. If you want to run like a bigger business or hire plenty of employees, and if you think like you have a vision of a big business in the Czech Republic, then the SRO company, or if there are more of you who want to like share the company, be two directors of the company or two shareholders or more, then the SRO type limited liability company is probably the better way. But if you're, so it depends, Ramona. If you want to run a big company in the Czech Republic, then the SRO might be a good way. If not, then probably the trade license. Because the thing is that in the past, many people kind of abused the SRO, because it was kind of easy. A couple of years ago, it was easy to get the business visa based on an SRO, because you had to put 200,000 crowns deposit for, or like capital for the company. So if you could do this, the ministry kind of saw that you're credible, that you kind of mean it with the business here, and it was kind of easy to get a visa based on that, just the fact that you had an SRO in the Czech Republic. But then it changed, because also the law changed, and now you can establish the SRO with a capital of 1 crown. So basically everyone can establish the SRO now, so it's not that, like for the ministry, it's not anymore like a so credible thing to have. So they start checking everything like in more detail. So if you were just like, let's say, an English teacher and you establish the SRO, it would bring plenty of unnecessary questions, like about the taxation of the SRO, how much you will be paying for the taxes if you want to get registered as a VAT payer, how much you will be paying yourself a salary as a director of the company. So you can get the business visa based on the SRO company, the limited liability company, but it's more difficult, and it's usually worth it if it's like more serious business and bigger business to plan. So I hopefully explained or answered. All right, so now the official question time. So finally the permanent residency.
Yeah, so we have a question from Lotfi about the procedure of getting permanent residency and about the language test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was, I think maybe if you're referring, there was some news going around that they want to increase the level of the Czech language exam from A1 to, I think, to A2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they're planning to increase it. Currently it's A1, and there are specialized courses you can take that will prepare you for the exam itself, because the exam is very specific. It has a few parts. It has a reading, writing and talking. I don't know if it has, it also has the audio, the listening part too. So it's like any other language test ever. And there are specialized courses in the Czech Republic that will prepare you for that. So I wouldn't worry at all. And for the procedure of permanent residency, maybe if you have any kind of, specific question about the procedure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in general, you can apply for the permanent residency after 5 years of like continuously living here. So you get the first visa in 2015, and you keep extending the visa. There is no gaps in between your visas. So in 2020, you can apply for the permanent residency. You need to pass the language exam. You need to show that you've been making enough money on a monthly basis, and then of course all the standard documents you need, like proof of accommodation, your passport size photos, everything. You apply the same way at the Ministry of the Interior. So you collect all the documents, you go to the Ministry of the Interior, you submit the documents there, they start the procedure, and if you're approved, then you go back to the Ministry of the Interior, you give your fingerprints and get a card, and then you're good, because the permanent residence status is kind of forever. You just need to change the card every 5 or 10 years. So definitely it's a good thing to have. There are some exceptions, like for example, you can get the permanent residency faster, and you don't even need to pass the language test, but that mainly applies to family members of EU citizens. So if you're here as a family member of an EU citizen, you have the temporary residence permit, the partnership visa, then you can apply for the permanent residency even after 2 years of being here instead of 5, and you don't even have to pass the language exam. So it depends on the specific situation of yours, but in general 5 years, in some cases 2 years. Any other questions?
We have a very interesting question actually about citizenship.
Okay.
Let me give it a second. I just saw it, sorry. Yeah. Linda is asking, what about the dual citizenship great-grandparents from Domažlice and her family tree dating to 1850? So you can always try and get citizenship through your parents or grandparents usually. For this, you would need to present that they had lost Czech citizenship before 2013. You have to present the marriage certificate. If they had one, birth certificates, and how exactly it turned out that they didn't have the Czech citizenship anymore, but they had to lose it before 2013. As for the great-grandparents, that's I would assume that would be the same process. Maybe we will just add a special affidavit or something, or a letter or explanation letter, because there's always one concrete person that looks into your application. So you can also submit additional letters and additional statements. But it depends on the law, so there's an exact law about that. If you want to, you can write us a message, and we would need to take a longer look into that, because every case is different. For the parents and grandparents, it worked. For great-grandparents, you can always try. You can always try. If you try, you will not lose anything. But we will need to look closer into that, for sure.
Yeah, we've done a couple citizenship requests, but always through the steps of living here. So first long-term visa, then a long-term residence permit, then permanent residence permit. After 5 years of having the permanent residence permit, applying for the citizenship. So we know this procedure, all the other procedures through your ancestors and everything. We're not that much experienced in that, but if you wish, we'll be happy to find out. So just drop us a message and we'll be happy to find out and let you know.
Yeah, and we have a follow-up question. I will be applying for permanent residency at the end of this year. I want to know if the language exam will be changed from A1 to A2. There is just speculations so far that it's going to be changed, it's going to be increased. There is no official information yet, I believe. I'm looking into this now. Hard to say, it's still quite a long time till the end of the year. Yeah. Excuse me, sorry.
Sorry, someone's visiting our office.
So there's quite. What I was thinking about? Sorry. So you can see it's 7 in a lift time. So there's. So there's still speculations that the language level is going to increase. Mm-hmm. It's still quite a long time to the end of the year, but usually they announce these things quite in advance. So if you follow our page on Facebook, we for sure will announce, in case it changes, we'll for sure announce that that it's increasing and when, because they also should give you some notice in advance, so you have enough time to have a test.
Yeah, there are some other changes being planned in the immigration law. So maybe the new version of the law will be introduced later this year, and it will bring this change as well. But no one knows, because also with COVID and everything happening now, not sure if it's the priority of the Czech government to change such things. So definitely follow us, check our Facebook, check our website, follow our live streams and videos, and once we know, we'll definitely share it with you. So that's probably the best thing we can do now.
Great. Yeah, any updates when non-EU people, Americans, will be able to travel to Czech Republic and apply for a visa? I intend to move to teach English.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is still unknown, unclear, because the travel restrictions were introduced based on the number of cases in each country. So I believe that unless cases in the US decrease significantly, that there will be no risk of Americans spreading the COVID in the Czech Republic. I don't think that the government will allow travels, but no one knows when it will be, because those rules change very often, and it depends on the levels of the cases, and also how the government is dealing with that, and also the relationship with the country. So unfortunately, we cannot predict that. We would love to tell you something. We would also love to hear some positive news that everything will reopen in 3 months, but it's definitely difficult to guess now, because everything is changing very often. All right. Any other questions?
Is it common to get approval to... Sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah. Is it common to get approval to study the Czech language through a private school through other type? If so, how long the visa usually for? It is quite common to get approval to study with the purpose of to study the Czech courses. It has to be a certain amount of hours, has to be full-time commitment, and then the visa would be granted for as long as you have the confirmation written that you will be attending the courses. So for example, it could be a 1-year course. It would be from, let's say, 1st of September till 30th of May. So this is the time when your visa is going to be approved for.
Yeah, 2 things may be related to that. The maximum is 1 year, because the other type of visa can be given for up to 1 year. So it can be shorter if your course is shorter. It can be the maximum of 1 year. Another thing is that you need to be ready that when you apply for the visa, the officer at the embassy can ask you why do you plan on studying Czech language. So there should be some reason for that. You should be prepared for this kind of question and be able to answer. Usually people start with studying Czech language to then continue at the Czech university, because if you speak Czech, you study for free in the Czech Republic. So that might be a good reason to study Czech language. Maybe you want to run business in the Czech Republic, so you first need to learn the language to be able to run business properly. So you always need to know why you want to study the Czech language, because the embassy can ask you about that. But if you have a clear purpose and you know why, then you can definitely apply for the other purpose and get it approved.
Yeah, then we have a question from Shankar. Hi, I have spent about 1 year in Czech Republic with employee card. Now I'm in Portugal and have Portuguese residency card. I'd love to do something in Czech Republic and willing to start restaurant through a SRO company. So is it possible to open restaurant when I'm losing Portuguese residency card?
Yes.
For sure you can open a restaurant. You don't need to lose your Portuguese residency card. If you also want to gain residency permit in the Czech Republic based on the fact that you own a restaurant, for the Czech part, they don't really care if you have a residency somewhere else. It's actually your benefit, because you will be able to apply from the embassy in Europe. But you will need to find out on the Portuguese side, because sometimes in different countries, even within Europe, if you have a residency permit in one country, you cannot have a residency permit in another one. From the Czech side, it doesn't matter. From the Portuguese side, please find out yourself. We're not really experts in other countries. So it's better to ask on the Portuguese side if it's okay to have a Czech residency permit and still keep your Portuguese one.
Yeah, one important note as well, that the SRO company can be activated and start generating some income even if the director of the company or shareholders do not have any visa in the Czech Republic. So for example, the trade license, will not be activated unless you have a residence permit in the Czech Republic. So if you wanted to open a restaurant based on the trade license, that would not be possible without like moving here and getting a visa or residence permit. If you establish the SRO company, then the company can start running the business without you physically being here. So definitely, if you want to open a restaurant, do it through the SRO company, because that's the only way how you can start the business without moving here. If you want to move here as well, then everything what Daria explained before.
Yeah. We have a question from Ivan. Hi, long-term visa, long-term residence, employee card, is it the same? If not, what's the difference and how long they're approved? Thanks. Well, I don't know if you connected in the beginning to our live stream or just now. This is basically what we've been talking about for the last hour. So, long-term visa, long-term residence, employee card is not the same thing. Long-term visa is basically just a visa to your passport, which is given up to 1 year. Residency permit is a plastic card that's given up to 2 years, and it has also different kinds of purposes of stay. And one of those purposes is employee card, which itself is the long-term residency permit.
Yeah. So, for example, if you get a long-term residence permit with the purpose of stay employment, then it's called an employee card. Yeah, hopefully that explains. So basically just the long-term visa is a visa in your passport, long-term residence is the card, and then based on the purpose of stay, which we've discussed here as well, they have different names, like the employee card, the Juno visa, business visa, and others.
Yeah, and a question from Shani, what is the amount of money to show financial independence with other visa for Czech language?
Yeah, there is a calculation for that. I don't remember from the top of my head, but I believe it's something around like 90 or 95,000 Czech crowns. The highest amount of money required is for the long-term visa with the purpose of business. There is 125,000 Czech crowns, or its equivalent in euros, dollars, or whatever currency you're using. For the other purpose, it's slightly less. I will need to calculate it, but it's something around, let's say, 95,000 crowns.
Yeah, it depends on the minimum living expenses, which can also be different. They just increased last year. Yeah, it's calculated. There's like well, how do you call it, a form where you can calculate it. So if you drop us a message, we can tell you how much it is exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? If not, if we get some more questions, we'll be happy to answer them. But now, as we promised in the beginning, that we have something special for you at the end. So for those of you who stayed with us, and one more time, this is a great opportunity for you because there will be no publicly accessible recording of this video or this live stream. So for those of you who stayed with us until now, we have a 20% discount for you. If you want to use our services, doesn't matter if you want to use them now or if you want to use them later or if you want to use them yourself or through someone else. But because you stayed with us and because you watched, we will offer you a 20% discount if you drop us a message using this like code. Wait. L S VT, like live stream visa types and 121. So if you think about using our services and you've stayed until the end of this live stream, if you use this code through any channel of communication through us, through Facebook, through YouTube, through Instagram, through website, through email, you call us, whenever you mention this code, you'll get a 20% off from our services. As our thank you for being with us and like supporting us.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, we have maybe the last question for today. To confirm to teach English freelance, you need the Gymno trade license before applying for business long-term visa, and Gymno is much faster and easier to get. So what you need to do, Gymno is a short version of živnostenský list, which is a trade license. The trade license is one document for both for foreigners and the Czech citizens, for everybody, which confirms that you can freelance in the Czech Republic. It has nothing yet to do with the visa. It's just a separate document, everybody can get it. In case you don't have a residency or visa here, the trade license or Gymno you'll be getting will be temporary, not active, so you will be just, well, like a pre-existing contract that you will be starting after you get your visa, and then you will be given 6 months to get a visa or residency permit and activate your trade license, your Gymno, with that visa. So basically the process is first to get Gymno, to get the trade license, apply with it as a purpose of stay, apply for it for a visa. Then when you get the visa, bring the visa to the trade license office back and activate your trade license. So these two processes, they happen simultaneously. They're two separate processes, but you will need to, when you apply for a visa, you need to prove that you have a purpose of stay, and the way you prove it is that you bring the ready trade license to show that you already started working on the process. I hope it's a little bit confusing, but I hope you got the idea.
Yeah, and the trade license comes first, and it's a fairly easy process. The complicated part there might be getting your criminal check. So if, I don't know if you're American, if you mentioned that or not. If you're an American, you can get it here through the US Embassy in Prague, so it's not that complicated. If your nationality is different, then you will need to get the criminal check from the country of your origin. And once you have it, you can get the trade license. So once you have the criminal check sorted, then getting the trade license is pretty simple and fast. Let's say 1 week of a process, and then getting the visa, that's a different story, and we discussed it earlier.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us.
If you have any further questions and we didn't manage to answer them, drop us a message on Facebook. Just go to our page and drop us a message and let us know, and we'll be very happy to answer you.
All right. So till the next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
That's okay. You don't have to. That's okay.
Okay, sorry.